Welcome to another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. These weeks just keep ticking on by, and I look forward to them more and more every week. Thanks for joining us, of course, but it's not just me. Like I said, it's us. So let me introduce to you the Spacely Sprockets to my Cogswell Cogs, Mr. Jay Bartlett.
There's usually a couple of people waiting. There's nobody waiting this week. They always have something colorful to say. It's just you 3 times. Here we go, here we go, here we go.
Well, those are for all the different accounts that get posted. There were 6 people here, and as soon as I came on camera, they left. So it's just you and I hanging out. Well, if people want to see what happens when we're left alone to our devices with our dolly cameras, then they can check it out. There's Nelson. How's it going? Don't make us feel alone. Make us feel like we got somebody who gives a damn. How's it going? How you doing this week?
I got it's I don't know, man. It's been a week. Real life has happened, and I think I've chose to do a weekly vlog in the toy world where I kind of share what I'm going through. And I think after all these years, I'm finally going to do my first vlog on my big steps I've taken this week and why I did it. So another big announcement, but
tell me what the vlog is, because that's pretty big news. We didn't even tease that big news. Yeah. We're really good at the teases. The hey guys, next week, big news. Like you just came right. You opened that goddamn tuna can and let it all out. What happened? There's a hurricane of toy news, brother.
Yeah, I just think it's not an original idea. What's up, Lisa? From far, far away. I think I have a lot to say, and I don't want it to be scripted or edited. I usually, finally polish everything for YouTube.
I hate when people edit things. That's the worst. Like when you're following with the camera and it gets cut down and tailored towards their vision, and you speak the words that they want to hear. It's the worst.
Yeah, I just got a lot to get off my chest from my world, and we'll see if people find it interesting or not. So, yeah.
Who cares if they find it interesting? Who cares if they find it interesting? If you find it helpful, therapeutic, you get the energy, the release from it. I think that's why so many of us do what we do within the world of toys. I've been interviewing people for Action Figure Adventure Season 2, and one of the things we talk about is beyond figures. The community at large, and how so many of us are creators, whether we do podcasts and live streams or vlogs or we go to conventions. There's so many of these ancillary things that we take our passion, we turn it inside, and we shoot it back out. And that's an important thing. And we do that because we love the churn and the burn, the taking it in and the sending it out there.
Yeah. Well, let's hope you're right. And if not, it'll be a fun experience. I'm all about trying new things this past month or so. So that's kind of the theme of what's going on here. Which is why I got my buddy Silver Surfer hanging out with me today, because we're both trying new things, but we'll get to that later on.
Well, sign me up. That's interesting. I can't wait to see what you're going to try. And now that I know you're in a place where you want to try anything new, I'm going to rush a bunch of new contracts over to your place.
Okay.
We'll do a new series called Toy Challenges with Jay Bartlett to see every week if he can handle a new toy challenge that gets him out of his toy comfort zone. What do you think? There's the pitch.
Let's do it. Yeah. I did something. Geez, what was it? The beginning of summer this year, where actually I was at our buddy Craig's at Dark Matter, and I found a ton of Gem and the Hologram dolls, and they are dolls. There's no other way to put it. I never thought I would be buying Barbie-like dolls for my collection, but I did, because I love that cartoon. And I've rarely seen the Gem dolls, and I saw like 5 or 6 of them, and I grabbed them, and they're so friggin' cool. They got their own display case upstairs. So there's something that's out of my comfort zone. There you go.
That's a cool out of comfort zone collecting spree that you went on. But I got to be honest with you, dude. You collect. You infamously say, and so many of us do, but you are the true wearer of said clothes, in that you do collect kind of like everything, or at least yearn to collect everything and acquire the knowledge of everything. So if you don't have the figure, at least you've got the knowledge for the thing. So like vintage G.I. Joe, for example, I know you don't have a lot in your collection, but you know the stuff. And when you saw it, you'd probably grab it if it made sense to get. So Gem and the Holograms doesn't really surprise me, but it's a cool detour from the staples, the Star Wars, the Masters, the Transformers, the yada yadas, and the Big Bam hooey shooey canoeies that we're all getting over and over again.
Well put, yeah. And again, like I stated, you don't see them too often. And if you do, they're usually in ratty shape. So these ones were really decent. So I picked them up. So that's exciting. What's going on in your world this week besides your leaky sink that I heard about?
Yes, leaky sink. I wish that was a euphemism, but it's actually leaky sink. But before I get to me, I'm going to put an open invitation to you, my friend. If you want to do a little bit of a randling on, as Kevin Smith might call it, on this show, we will set aside a segment every week to share some of your personal thoughts, and maybe they can tie to your vlog entries, so people you kind of drop the seed, and then they can go check out what's going on, what you're thinking about. I think it would be pretty cool to incorporate some of that stuff, a nice little tethering system, if you will, so you can kind of tease some love, share some thoughts, and then they can get the whole picture over on Jay Bartlett the Exorcist. I mean, Jay Bartlett Jay Bartlett the Toy Collector.
Jay Bartlett the Shatner. I thought that's what we were going to say. Jay Bartlett the no.
That's a channel I should start. Jay Bartlett the Shatner.
Ron McCallum.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see you kind of share some deep thoughts. I think that would be cool.
Well, yeah, there's social media and the sides that we want people to see. And I think I want to share, there's this whole other side of me and what I do that I don't share because, quite frankly, it hasn't been a lot of fun, the Joe job, many of us rarely talk about that. So I think I want to talk about that and kind of discuss why I changed my world and flipped everything upside down this year. So yeah, look forward to that. And that'll be coming this week.
Love it. I love it. As far as my past week, I can't even tell you what has happened, to be completely honest. I know I have done a lot of editing of material that was shot in Michigan from some people that we interviewed there, mainly just interviews, organizing that, seeing what we need. And much like the Jay and Rob Toy Show that, again, played today on Jinx, the thing I always dread when going through these interviews, Jay, and people that watch tonight's show will understand because it was about Holy Grails, is where am I going to find the figures for the cutaways of all the dollies that people discuss? That is like, oh, well, somebody mentions this, well, I got to get that. Well, somebody mentions this, well, I got to get that. And tonight's episode that played at 7:30 about an hour ago was on Holy Grails, and it was a fun topic to discuss between you and I. And of course, I interview everybody in season 2 for AFA about the same topic. But I remember thinking, should we do this topic for the very sake of we can't afford most of the cutaways that we plan on discussing because they're impossible to acquire because they're Holy Grails. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, if I may.
You may.
I came through pretty good on that one. I think there's a few that I think people will be surprised that. Are we talking about the Jay and Rob Toy Show or Action Figure Adventure? Maybe the ones.
Well, Jay and Rob Toy Show with all the Holy Grails, they were pretty much, we had to get images of almost everything. When it came to the spotlight stuff, I mentioned a Holy Grail that you were able to actually acquire, and I was able to use that imagery in place of sourced images. But
yeah, that's right. Yeah. We try and do our best to take our own photos and shoot our own stuff. But again, man, we only have so much time and so much money, and but it's definitely nice when we can photograph a Holy Grail piece and say, this is my blank.
Yeah,
literally the blank.
Yeah, literally the blank. Cactus Jamie says, awesome episode. I appreciate all the cutaway photos of toys I'll never be able to own, which is exactly how I feel most of the time when we throw them.
Never say never.
It's some of this stuff though, right? Time, money, space, all the collecting rules that we go by, but some of them you have to pull the trigger because they're just that damn good. But then some of them you're like, oh, do I really want to spend $200 on this? Well, I need it for the show, so I should probably do it. Twist the arm.
Some of them I haven't seen since I was a kid, since I owned them. And honestly, yeah, we've been to many, many toy stores. We've traveled thousands of miles back and forth, and some of them we've never seen at all.
Yeah. I'm
So,
still surprised by the lack of things that we have seen yet continually discuss.
yeah, I mean, there's some pieces that are obscure and rare, and then there's just some pieces that just take your breath away when you see it. You're just like, oof. And I'm very grateful that I have a few of those in my collection, as I'm sure you do as well. But again, we've kind of come to this point in our collecting career where it's like it's nice to step back and just kind of look at what you have and admire that, and not buy
Yeah,
anything.
I'm getting ready to sparse down to my friend over here by the Sentinel box, just above my thumb. You can see some Marvel Legends figure. Those are the retro backs. They're laying flat, but you know what I mean. They're the gray back Marvel Legends repackages of like Wasp and a lot of the Avengers characters, and those are gonna find a new home soon because I just don't love them enough to keep them. You know, so I'm starting
Yeah,
to build piles and boxes of stuff that I just don't need in the collection anymore. I'd rather condense and get the stuff that truly matters, which sort of brings us to the icebreaker, brought of course by our sponsoring partners, Heroes Comics, Big Bad Toy Stores, Mock Masters, and Retro Rags, all of which help make this podcast stay free, help support Jane Rob Toy Show, and of course Action Figure Adventure. Jay, has there been a toy that you asked for Christmas and that you didn't get?
the playset directly behind me, that aircraft carrier right there. Yeah, the
You know, that
flag. I remember.
surprises me. It surprises me.
Mom was incredible, and she is responsible for all this stuff, meaning that she really did buy me the world, and that's why I'm into so much, and it means so much to me. But the flag was one that I did not get. I asked for it. um I just remembered images of going into Toys R Us and it being up very high, and it was just like there's no way that this box was even going to fit in the car. And then, you can only imagine what's going through a parent's mind. Okay, if the box can't fit in the car, how the heck is this thing going to fit in the house, in a child's bedroom? And I mean, the flag would fit in my childhood bedroom, but I mean, there would be my bed and then the flag and then that's it, right? So it's not very practical, which is again why it's so sought after now. It's one of those pieces that adults like us with disposable income want to get because we were denied so hard as kids for that piece.
It still shocks me that your mom didn't find a way to make that happen, even if it was put like in the sub basement of your place, where a lot of your toys went to kind of chill out and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm surprised that wasn't turned into more of a toy room or something, or a playroom, because your mom was awesome and you
Yes, she is.
literally got
Yeah.
so many cool things, and she just believed on,
Yeah.
letting you love what you loved without question. So I didn't know the answer to that question. So I'm glad I got the answer now. The closest thing I got for a Christmas toy that I asked for and I didn't get was a Super Nintendo. And
That's a big one. That's a big one.
it's a big one. And I kind of want
Yeah.
it because my brother got one. So my grandma had this rule, I'll buy you one gaming system and that's it. So I got an NES, which is cool, a few years earlier. And then my
Mhm.
brother wanted a Super Nintendo. Well, of course, it's Robbie got a Nintendo. Christopher will get a Nintendo, of course, but that was the new Nintendo that was out, and it sat in my kitchen for like weeks before we sent it
Oh.
off there. So I saw it like every day for like
Oh.
3 weeks. And there was part of me in the back of my mind that I thought, maybe she'll hear my whining and I'll get it underneath the tree. It didn't happen. And
Yeah.
I never grew up as a Super Nintendo kid. I played a little bit at your place, but I didn't
Mhm.
play Super Mario World until like the Wii U era because I just never had access to one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a tough one. The era we grew up in, which was the 16-bit wars. I mean, that was, you didn't want to be behind there. For I'm sure most people in chat are our age, so brief history lesson. Like,
According to our demographics, everyone in chat is between 35 and 44.
yeah,
92% are men as
yeah.
well.
So if you had an NES and the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis were out, if you still had the NES, you were a dinosaur, because back then video games weren't really historical artifacts. They weren't like old movies or old books where it's like, oh, I'm going to save the 2600 and play combat, whenever I feel like it, like an old movie you would have. It was just discarded. You wanted to get rid of the old game system and get the newest with the better graphics, and no one really wanted to play the old one. Of course, now we all hang on to that stuff and appreciate that each era had amazing games and they're worth playing. But back then, yeah, man, if you were left behind, especially a generation, so I can understand Super Nintendo and Genesis, you only getting one because most people only had one or the other. But to be left behind on a generation, yeah, that's
I wasn't left behind on the generation because the next year, my birthday, which is in November, falls before Christmas, my birthday after that lack of Super Nintendo Christmas, I got a Genesis for my birthday from my dad. So I was in the 16-bit era. It was Genesis 2. Wasn't the original release, so it was something, and at least I had something to play, which is why I've always grown up more of a Sega fanboy. I always wanted the Saturn, didn't have one until 5-6 years ago, and then sold it because I didn't have time to play it. And of course, good luck playing disc games nowadays. You play for like 3 hours, and then there's a scratch, and you can't finish like Panzer Dragoon Saga or pick your RPG that came out by Working Designs. Just hard to do nowadays.
Yeah, and to play, I mean, I have the I have some rare stuff like this Philips CDI with those Zelda games, and once every couple of years I like to fire up the Wanda Gamelon because it's so terrible that you just have to experience it. But I'm afraid, like, when I put it on, I'm like, is this the last time the CDI is going to boot up? Is this is it going to spin the disc? Is it going to spit the disc out? Luckily, I've been okay, but I've gone through 3 3DOs in the last 15 years. So yeah, anytime I boot up an old game system, I'm really terrified of that. So I read you, but I still hate digital. Blah.
Yeah, but at least it's reliable, right? At least you can play it until the servers go down and you have no longer access to that cloud-based library. We don't know anything about that Rock Band.
Rock Band. The fine print, which none of us read, was these were all songs that you were just temporary licensing, and I didn't read that. Yeah,
much
thousands
like
of dollars gone.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. The Rock Band songs.
Yeah, exactly. Let's stick on the Christmas kick for a second. Hopefully we're going to be talking about Playtime stuff soon, but I was curious, do you remember the first Christmas that you didn't ask for toys and what that was like?
Oh boy. Yeah, well, it was transitioning into video games, and I remember the transition, I got dragged kicking and screaming. I didn't want to leave toys and go into video games, but one of my best friends, Darren, and I, we hung out almost every weekend, and that was kind of just what it became. You took the toys from playing with them in your hands, Silver Surfer, to now Silver Surfer, the comic book, and the NES game, right? So it kind of transitioned into that. So I would say around the time I got my NES, probably grade 8, which is late, I know, but then it was all about video games, and because video games were so expensive, we weren't quite old enough to work yet, so you would get one for your birthday, one for Christmas, and one another time, maybe if you were lucky.
Yeah. I remember it basically going from toys to CDs and movies almost instantly. So instead of getting action figures, I would get CDs from whatever I wanted. And I distinctly remember like writing out lists of, albums that I wanted that were out that I either didn't have or
that's funny.
Or just come out. So it just jumped like that quickly.
I got a funny story for you. We're both huge fans of music. And I believe the one and only album my mom got me was Appetite for Destruction. I remember I didn't even know how to say appetite. And I remember she got it and she was horrified by, track 2. It's so easy with the swear word and all that. And as much as I love music, I remember from then on, I sourced my own music because that was just such a horrific experience. Sending her into Sunrise to get Appetite for Destruction when I was like grade 7, just this little, I was such a preppy kid, right? Before I became like the rocket guy.
Oh, there's some beautiful pictures of your preppiness in both Nintendo Quest and Season 1.
Yeah, it was really Don Johnson before I discovered rock and Kiss and GNR and all that stuff. And after that, I never asked for CDs or anything like that from a birthday. That I'm like, I'm gonna get this stuff on my own. Mom can take care of the video games and stuff like that.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it was a direct transition. It was never a weird thing for me. Funny enough, you mentioned Appetite for Destruction. I distinctly remember you showing me that album, and distinctly remember It's So Easy, and that really being the first time I heard like cursing like that, and it like blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then I also simultaneously remember
Yeah.
getting my own copy of Appetite for Destruction on CD, which was my very first CD I got, and sitting my grandma down to show her. And of course, I show her not so much Welcome to the Jungle, but I show her Paradise City, the beginning, and then I skip it after it gets into the heavy part. Sweet
Yeah.
Child of Mine. And like, oh, listen to the cool stuff that I'm listening to. Can you get into it? And it wasn't sold. It didn't sell on Appetite for Destruction.
It never worked, and I grew up with the radio on 24/7 in my house, which is why I love almost everything. Right? Yeah, from no, not that song. But no, I lost my train of thought.
Radio was on 24/7 in Jay's house, and all he heard was Rockin' Robin.
Yeah, what an awful song. I remember trying to get my parents into anything, and all I remember my father saying to me was, "That's just noise. It's just noise." And I said, you know what? When I grow up, if I ever have kids, I'm going to listen to what they listen to, and I don't have kids, but it's almost like a godsend, because it's like the garbage that passes for modern music today for the most part. And it's funny, like I swore to myself I would never say that, and now I'm saying it. It's just like stuff that's out there now, man. I don't get it.
Kids today, like what are you listening to?
You don't even need to know how to play an instrument, and even if you can't sing, it corrects it for you so you sound like you can sing. I'm like, you had to learn that skill. Like, that was part of being a musician.
Yeah, well, on the way you record too, right to tape, so you had to play the whole thing out over and over again, not just cut it together and tune it with software. And lot has changed for
Ham Sandwich. That's an interesting thing you have to say there about Axl. The first time I saw him was a Sweet Child of Mine video, and I heard that sonic noise. It's just beautiful noise come out of his mouth, and I thought it was a girl. I thought Axl was a woman for the longest time, just like some punk rock woman. And I found out later it was a guy, and I was like, how can a guy make that noise? Yeah, he whines and screams, but there ain't nobody like him. He's one of a kind, that's for sure.
And for everybody that's listening on the podcast side and you can't see the comment I put on screen, Ham Sandwich says, GNR are the only band where the lead singer can whine the whole time and people don't mind. So just in reference to Jay's comments there, let's take a second and say hi to everybody that's finally emerged into chat to join us this evening. Of course, we got JLS Comics. Nelson says hi. We've also given a shout out to Lisa, of course. Nathan, the Tater, the toy guy is here. Retro Universe, of course. Scott Wad, Ham Scott, Sandwich, as we mentioned. Cactus Jamie, Daniel, Country Boy 9, John.
What's up, John?
Missing Bradley Gray. Thanks for joining us. Is that it? That's everybody so far. If you obviously pop in or you're watching, throw us a comment. We'd like to say hi to you. And of course, hi to all our Patreon backers that help make all of this super awesome and continued, much like our sponsors. I wanted to talk about Playtime today, Jay, because we end every episode with, Playtime is the best time. I truly believe that. I see it in my kids. I see it in us when we're playing. There is no better time. So the big question, the mother of all questions, Jay, what is your Playtime recipe for success? And you can take that any which way you want. If you were to build a recipe for Playtime and that it was going to be like the best Playtime ever, what would that be? What ingredients would you pull together?
Well, if we had to go back in the day, because that's
you can say back in the day, you can say right now, and how you define Playtime. It's whatever you want.
I was liked, we've talked about a game called Mix Up that we used to play. Mix Up simply meant you mixed up all the different characters from all the different IPs. Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, it didn't matter. They were all in this same universe. You could travel to their planets or whatnot, but you use them all together because, again, we liked so much. We didn't just want to play Star Wars. We didn't just want to play He-Man. We wanted to to have Luke Skywalker. We want to have Prince Adam. We want to have all that stuff. So, generally, it would have to be a sleepover. We would need a basement setting. It would have to be a sleepover, so time is not a factor. A sleepover is a must because these playtimes, because we like to act like the characters when we play, are very tiring. So we wouldn't want to have to drive afterwards, much like a party. So we want to hang out and crash, and there would be no time limit. And I'd say, we'd pick our top 3 favorite characters we each wanted to be, and then from the rest of the characters, then you'd pick, I'd pick, kind of thing.
That's a pretty good recipe for success. I remember many afternoons and even mornings where we would play at your place, and all of a sudden, like, your mom would just be like, "Hey, do you guys want some pop?" She like bring out the Coke Classic, like real Coke, and I always had Diet Pop at my house, so it was like, wow, this is a treat. Or you want some chocolate milk or a chocolate bar, and then all of a sudden, like, there'd be like pizza or snacks. So we would just play from like mid morning until like dinner time. And it wouldn't stop. And we were left alone in the basement to just play where you are right now. Had many battles on that fireplace in the background there.
Yeah.
Running up and down the whole place. So yeah, I definitely think like length of time, like ample play time without borders and getting the call to come home for dinner, or you better be home because the street lights are on. Having that no barrier to when the playtime has to end is certainly
there was plenty of times I got interrupted for dinner as kids, and we would pause the game so everything would stay exactly where it was. And then when you'd come back, more often than not, there wasn't the same energy. It just wasn't the same. So not to interrupt the story, I think, would be the most important thing. So and man, we would play for longer than most movies, 2 or 3 hours. I remember specifically my friend Darren and I playing so intensely that I would pop my hernia out from pushing down, making these effects. And that's actually, I don't know how I got the hernia. I think it was from basketball. I don't know, or skateboarding. I don't know, but I've had it my whole life.
It's from hammer hands.
I remember it would pop out because we'd be making these sound effects. I would be pushing down, and some of the characters like Thanos, just how he would speak, and you would put everything into it, and you would use all your muscles and push. And I remember there'd be a lot of times when I would have to like lie down because that was the only cure to get rid of the pain, was to lie down. And we'd be playing, and I'm like, dude, I gotta stop and pause. And oftentimes that would be the end of the play session. Yeah.
Oh man, I do.
That's intense. That is passion right there. That is a couple of kids that love what they do.
You make me laugh though, because I had completely forgotten about the getting called for dinner and then trying to come back and play that whole scenario. And like, that was my specialty. Like, that was my stupid human trick as a kid. Do you remember how many times we'd be playing and I'd have to go home for dinner? Like, my folks would call your place and I'd go and I'd be back like in 10 minutes. Because I'd run home, eat, and
yeah. And what would I say to you? Do you remember what would I say to you? I'm like, dude, eat as quick as you can, like no joke. And you would really do it. Like, you would run there and shovel it down, and you would get in shit for eating too fast, and you come back, and it was just like, yeah, because once you took the initial window to the sale, it was hard to get back unless you restarted the game again, because we would go to what the GI Joes are doing, then the He-Mans and stuff, and we had a certain mindset. It was like a play we were acting out.
Yeah.
And then when the wind got taken out of it, it was hard to recreate that moment. So
yeah, unless you like came up with like a new storyline that sort of bridged the gap, but it never lasted quite as long. You could feel the gas fading out of it. I always liked when we had a new element, whether it was a new figure that we got to play with, or there was like a new vehicle, or even sometimes just like, I remember outside at the side of my house, I'd play with my turtles just by myself. But this one time my grandpa had all these bricks, all these big, just standard size bricks, but there's huge piles of them. I don't know where he got them or where they even went, because I don't have red bricks anywhere at that house to this day.
Yeah.
But I remember I would build with them like giant, like buildings. And I remember creating like a pizza parlor for the Ninja Turtles and having like a whole story with all that kind of stuff. So the ingredient of something new is always awesome to fuel playtime. And I remember so many times you and I playing, especially in the Toy Biz Marvel era, where we would play and a story would come out, and all of a sudden I'd have like a figure in my pocket, or you would, and it'd be like, "Here's Cyclops," and I'd push his button, he'd had like the blinking
like,
eye.
yeah, I
Like,
specifically
no, yeah.
remember near the end of Playtime, Darren had this character. Darren, my friend who lives out west, just an incredible imagination that he had. He still has to this day. Just I learned a lot from him and how to create stories and that kind of thing. He had this character named Recon. Recon was the pilot of the Visionaries vehicle. It's the biggest vehicle there is. There's only 3 vehicles, I think, in Visionaries. This was the biggest one. He was a bad guy. His name was Recon. There was nothing special about Recon other than he looked cool. But Recon took over this kind of god kind of persona, almost like a Thanos. And this is subsequently when the Infinity Gauntlet was also going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And I remember the Marvel Toy Biz Silver Surfer. This is the Marvel Legends Silver Surfer. But when the Marvel Toy Biz Silver Surfer came out, so I had him. So we really tried to recreate Thanos versus Silver Surfer. And I remember that fight went on for like half an hour, and he couldn't kill Surfer because Surfer is Surfer, right? That kind of thing. And that was just so fun, man. Like I think that was one of the last times we played, because we were into comics and we've told the story a million times, and it started to not feel right.
Yeah.
We wanted to be in the world with those characters. We wanted to read about those characters. We just didn't really want to play with them anymore, but we still wanted the physical thing, the physical object.
I always found that the Visionaries reminded me a lot of the Beyonder. I always thought that almost any of those characters could have stood in for the Beyonder, except for obviously the scale was off compared to like Secret Wars, the 4-inch scale. But
Recon was also special because even back then Visionaries were scarce, and he came with the biggest vehicle, which is to this day absolutely priceless. It's at least probably $700-800 in the box. So trying to find Recon, he's the rarest of the Visionaries.
Yeah.
So he was already special back then. So I think that's why Darren gravitated towards him. And he wasn't a superhero like Surfer or anything that existed. Captain America was just his own guy, and Darren kind of made up his own personality for him. It's just really cool, man.
We're talking playtime and going through the recipe for success of what makes a great playtime, all the ingredients that we found over the years, what works, what doesn't work, what's integral, what's essential. I want to give a big shout out to Bill, who's joined us. Pinky Girl has chimed in as well, and so has Akira's son. Thanks for joining us again, guys. What was it like, Jay, when you had playtime and you started playing with other people's toys? So we shared toys a lot. Darren mixed toys a lot too. Some of our other friends. What was that like when you got to play with somebody else's toys? Was that like a weird taboo thing? Did you ever get like the side eye, like you're not supposed to be playing with that person that way? Or how was that for you?
I was the guy who gave the crook eye because Darren was, as we like to call in our world, heavy-handed, meaning he had a way of articulating the damage. And if I just take, the Marvel's The Hood, one of my favorite figures, when the guy would get shot, Darren would be like, and like if it was a really hard explosion, he would toss the toy, he would throw it.
Yeah.
Which again made for some great drama, but a lot of casualties came from that, especially Joe's. A lot of broken O-rings. So to play with his toys, I was always very careful. I was always very careful with yours, because I like to keep my stuff in great shape. I still played with it, but I always kept my stuff in very pristine shape. So when it was his turn, I didn't care that you played with my stuff. You were good. The only thing I was ever really kind of hands-offish with is if I got something brand new, it would take a few weeks for that to wear off, the newness, and then other people could play with it. But Darren, I was always very cautious, because I remember the wave Crocmaster came out from Joe's in '87, and I didn't want anyone touching him. And Darren wanted to be him the one day. I'm like, no, you can't be Crossmaster. He's like,
Because you
come
knew
on, man.
his heavy hands were gonna mess with him.
Yeah, and he was Crossmaster was just so cool looking. I'm like, no, man, because you're gonna break him and stuff like that. So,
But it's true. I mean, and his way of doing damage is something that you picked up, and it's something that I picked up too. It's almost like that cinematic bullet time where we would stop and just watch him do that, or we would wait for that to happen. So like we'd have a figure, right? And he'd like hit, and then it'd be like slow motion, and it would like tear apart. And
that's so weird. You have Psycho from GoBots. I was just looking at him the other day, and I was thinking, where did mine go? Where did it go, Rob?
I don't know. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Moving on.
He taught us a lot about playtime. And you know what? I swear one day we're gonna get Dare on this show because through Action Figure Adventure and our podcast, we've both talked about him so much. He was such a big part of us growing up and kind of learning the art of play through him. I really think that if you could teach kids how to play, that would have been his calling, is to teach kids how to play with toys, because he was just so amazing at it.
Yeah, he really had a way of drawing you into the playtime. But I think that's what playtime is, like learning different cues from different other people. Like I remember like he was good at that minutia stuff, like the conflict. You were always good at the layout of the room, putting different factions in different places so that the story could like logically progress from one spot to another without it feeling so linear. And I don't know, I was just along for the ride. That's what I was good at.
You would always start a game of mix up with the small guys, and what I mean by that, I mean is how do I say, like the mortals, the weakest of the bunch, like humans. He would start with GI Joes, though they were always the first to go, because when the cosmic beings came out, like Surfer and Galactus and all that, like the Joes don't stand a chance, right? So you want to play with the Joes first, and they have their fight, and then maybe He-Man guys come and take over there. But yeah, I mean, I love doing the voices too. Something, again, I think we learned from Darren. We kind of acted out, and I think all kids do that. But he was very theatrical about his presentation, and he would hold the figure up, and he would act out the actions with his body too, like an actor, and hold the figure as like the prop, man. So that's something else that took from him as well.
The figure was really just like a placeholder. We just wanted to embody it. We tried to channel through the figure to some degree, but it became larger than life. It's like as soon as we grabbed that, like we were that character until we put it down and took on a whole nother persona. One thing that he did a lot too that we did was we really went outside the lines of what the character should have and use as far as their accessories. I remember him distinctly having all these rubber bands on figures and like having weapons like tied to them so they wouldn't fall off, and you wouldn't worry about putting stuff in hands and getting knocked away while you're in the middle of playtime. He would just like, okay, let's just rubber band, like a Mace from Cops. You guys had his cannon tied to him amongst other things.
Yeah, so Mace was the bazooka soldier in Cops and Crooks by Hasbro. Incredibly underrated line. And Darren took it to the next level. So he would elastic the bazooka to his arm, then he would elastic, another bazooka to his other arm, because we had two maces. And so he was really like super, like he almost looked like something from Robotech after Darren was done with him. Just guns strapped to every single part of his body. That's awesome, man.
I feel like we did that last week, and the more and more that we talk about it, and it's so cool that those sensations are instantly there. And frankly, when I talk about the recipe for playtime success, it really doesn't change that much when you look through the years how it evolved. So even when toys got put down and put away, when we got into video games, it was like we wanted the night to never end. We wanted to have the game and find a way to play it and enjoy it amongst each other and see where it went, especially when we got into multiplayer stuff. We'd build our own stories. We've talked about League Night a million times, that we would take on the persona of the characters and then put it into the game. Just an evolution, if you ask me, when it got to the gaming years.
It really all is playing. It really, all of it is playing. It's just, I guess, what was socially acceptable at the time. And when you're in, grade 8, grade 9, high school, playing with toys is not acceptable. And I get it. I mean, it felt weird. But we would do league night with WWF No Mercy and all that, and we pick our guys and we'd act out the characters. And I really think we both missed our calling as actors because we love to do characters and voices, and movie quotes is almost like a second language to us. So we missed our calling,
I
I
don't
think, on that
know.
one.
I don't know if we missed our calling as actors. We have both tried to do some form of acting, and we have both acknowledged that we are not actors. I think we just love playing so much that we wish we could be
Yeah,
professional playtimers, to be honest. And I think we
yeah.
get pretty close to that with stuff like our live streams. I mean, this is a blast. Jane Rob Toy Show, the TV side is a
Mm.
blast. Action figure adventure is just a game. What can you do? Where can you go within these limits? And how far can you get your high score? It's all
Yeah, it's
just
playing.
playtime.
It's playing in the next step of our life, right? Where it's collecting is now playing, right?
And
So
acceptable, because heaven
yeah.
forbid we're not accepted, right? So
Oh
Jesus.
yeah.
Bill Ma is chiming in and saying, what I remember most about playtime is that my turtles and Transformers had to attend a lot of tea parties. Joy of always having a girl in the group. Laugh out loud. Well, that's
Oh,
okay. A
that's
little
cool. That's cool,
cross-pollination.
man. Yeah.
Nelson is saying, oh, the rubber bands. My He-Man had like 4 swords on his back. That's cool. I like that idea. Akira lost 5 R2D2s at the beach. Nelson also had a small creek by his house, which yielded the best He-Man adventures ever. I'm wondering, Jay, did you ever ask for a toy? And when you got it, it just wasn't quite what you hoped it would be. Like, it left you wanting more. Like, you'd seen it before, like in the catalog, or you'd seen it at the toy store. And when you finally got it and opened it as a kid, I guess I'm talking about more, and you wanted to put it in playtime, it just never delivered on what you had hoped
Yeah.
it would do.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go with my gut instinct on this. I think I've referenced this, and I use the term loosely, playset before. I don't have it anymore, but it's the Star Destroyer bridge playset from The Empire Strikes Back, which 3/4 of the playset is Darth Vader's chamber where he sits, where you see his helmet come down on him in Empire Strikes Back. That thing is one of the worst pieces of crap I ever remember seeing. I remember, oh wow, there's going to be a inside of the Star Destroyer. It would be much like the bridge of the Enterprise. You get to play with all the Imperial troops and Vader, and just getting this thing, and it was shaped weird. It didn't make sense. Vader's chamber took up most of it. It was awful. It was awful.
I don't remember, thinking back to our playtime, us really ever using playsets. I remember the Fortress of Fangs slightly. I remember something like the Killer Whale and a lot of the smaller vehicles, but I don't really remember Castle Grayskull being much of a fixture during our playtime, or the G.I. Joe Command Center. I remember us just
Yeah.
really like using like the living room and pillows and cushions and building our own little hideaway spots.
Yeah, I agree. I think my neighbors who live behind me, we would play all around half the block here when we played GI Joe and Mask, and we would use the Terrordrome as Cobra's base, and they had the Joe base. I never had the Joe base. We would have those set up more like just like points, like, okay, the Joes have to get the element and bring it back to their base, kind of like a game of flags almost, right? So they weren't really played on. They were more just like points of reference. Okay, the bad guys are here, the good guys are here, kind of thing.
Yeah, and the best example of that, like you said, is playing outside. When you can be like between the roots of a tree, like an old tree, and use the like the bark as like some cover for your guys, or some rocks, or a stream. And hey, creeping Horak, of course.
Yeah.
That was just as cool as having some of these play sets. And I mean, so many commercials we saw with those play sets seem to be like outside anyways. And so like the mission can either only go to the base or leave the base. So might as well, go.
So play sets for me were more of a solo playtime kind of thing. When I really wanted to get into the lore of something, like I really wanted to get into He-Man, it would be Castle Grayskull, and it'd be more like the mysteries of the castle inside kind of thing. It wouldn't be like as action centric as playtime with friends kind of thing.
Sure, I can see that. I think I used play sets a lot more by myself as well. I distinctly remember Skull up by my fireplace because the bricks match the color of Grayskull. The sewer playset a lot. And again, like my own mix up where everybody would have their own base going from one to another. The Bat Cave was a huge staple. I never had the Firehouse for the Ghostbusters, but I had Ecto 1, and they would bust ghosts at all the, familiar haunts, pun intended, if you will, all the time. Did you have any other things you want to talk about in terms of playtime recipe before we get to our action figure spotlight this week, Jay? What are some other things that maybe ring true to you?
I just, I think those times in particular, near the end of when we were playing with toys, were so important to who we are as people now. What I mean by what we collect. I'm just looking at all this stuff here. Like what we collect now is a direct representation of almost the end of our playtime, if that makes sense. Because we were into so much at the end. We were into Marvel, DC, Star Wars, He-Man, all that stuff. And I just remember that I never wanted to let any of that go. I remember, seeing like Transformers the movie and always thinking, that's still one of my favorite movies of all time. And, being in high school and stuff and everyone laughs at you. And I would always think that's still one of my favorite movies. So I think those ending play sessions were so important to kind of build us as the people we are today. Maybe I'm getting a little too deep here, but
no, I think there's a natural pull back from the nostalgic fun times where part of it might be wanting to rewrite how that ending happened so that it didn't end, and at the same time capture how it was one last fleeting moment while we remember the most recent experience of that, because it should be the freshest. Even though you and I can probably like we have tonight listed like some very memorable singular playtime experiences that we had, it's still you're trying to get that last breath of fresh air again and make it go on, which is why we do what we do. We have our own newer playtimes with the shows and stuff that we do and the way we interact and choose to interact with the community and the all the other stuff we create.
100% agree. And Ham Sandwich has a really great line there if you want to highlight that at the bottom. When I discovered music, I was 13 when I discovered playing music, and I'm, primarily a drummer. That was amazing. Yeah. So that's a whole different playtime. That's
same thing though, right? Same thing. Cause you're with your buddies when you're jamming, like we did for years. Right. Yeah. Oh man.
Both experiences were very spiritual, playing with toys and acting like these characters. And of course, playing music, even to this day, is very spiritual for me and such a release. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
I tell you right now, if I had to choose one playtime to go back to, whether it was playing with toys as our youth or in my high school or college years, jamming every single weekend for like 8 hours on end, I would do the jamming stuff 100% in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I just found the camaraderie, the variance, the way we would jam, the way we'd rotate instruments, the way we'd rotate songs.
Yeah, there's nothing like jam time. And, I got a couple of really close buddies now, and we're a tight-knit group, and we still play once a week, and for no other reason than to just play. And, of course, I've been influenced quite heavily by Lisa and just, lighting my soul on fire with playing guitar. I mean, that's unlike anything I've ever experienced before. So I fell in love with playing the guitar in August, and I haven't looked back. So we get to play that way. Yeah. And so one of these days when things go back to normal, hopefully, bring your Paul Stanley axe over and we'll shred.
Well, we could always do a little DI into these live streams and record separately as well. A little virtual jam session. That's pretty easy to do as well. Let's get to the action figure spotlight of the week, Jay. Of course, brought to you by our lovely Patreon backers, which, like our sponsors, keep this all free. So this is cool. It really makes it a good kick in the butt for us to do this stuff. Jay, do you have a couple figures that you want to talk about this week, or like a choice, or am I only getting one? Whatever you serve up, what's it going to be?
Well, I'm showcasing. I showcase something on this table here. I'm showcasing not the original, second version of Silver Surfer from the Marvel Legends. I think this is the 2017 Walgreens exclusive. So that was going to be the spotlight, but we didn't talk about the bet. We didn't talk about the bet we have where through the entire viewing of the second season of the Jan Rob Toy Show on Jenks, you and I would refrain from buying anything. And I have failed. I have lost the bet.
What?
I have lost.
You're out?
Yes, I'm out. I'm out of the contest.
Did you see like Mayfeld? Did you see Sandman? What was it?
It was something I couldn't say no to. I saw it at my local comic shop, and
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When you saw it and you knew that you needed to have it, how quickly did the bet enter your mind?
Oh, I said, oh, fudge. Only I didn't say fudge because this is a Walmart exclusive that was brought in, and I couldn't say no to it. I knew I'd lose the bet, but like I said, things are changing. Things have changed drastically this past 2 weeks for me in my life, and I needed a bit of retail therapy. So my action figure spotlight is from the Bad Batch, and this is, of course, the legendary Captain Rex. I think this is easily one of the top 10 figures of the year. This thing is gorgeous. He hasn't been taken out of the package just yet. That's going to be for my YouTube channel, but that's a real cloth cloak. The helmet is removable. Rex is a legendary character in Star Wars. And of course, he appears in the Bad Batch because he belongs to Dave Filoni. So there he is. There is the back of the box. You know how I can't stand the Black Series box. I think they're ugly. The art's nice. He was expensive because he is a Walmart exclusive, but I saw it and there wasn't even like a whimper of doubt in my mind. So Captain Rex, thank you very much. I lost the bet. Thank God there was no stakes. Otherwise,
no, there was stakes. There was stakes. You have to make a separate post on Facebook admitting your shame that you couldn't hold off buying toys and that you were weak and gave in to the disease that you have as a collector.
Dude, I do that almost monthly anyway. So
we do it every episode with action figures.
Pretty much. So I'll do that for you tomorrow there, Farm Boy.
You know what? Maybe you should put it on your YouTube channel just so everybody else sees. You really gets the eyeballs on it. I'm surprised you got that figure because I know you're not a huge fan of the Bad Batch show.
I don't like the Bad Batch show. That is correct. I do not like it. But I love Captain Rex, and there's something. I'm a sucker for clone trooper armor when they put the robes on.
Yeah.
Even if they made Ultra Magnus from War for Cybertron with the cloak, I would lose my mind. There's something,
it's like the Wanderer Vagabond.
It all comes back to Jedi Luke for me, and that's where that look comes from. So you put a cloak on anything, and I'll buy it. There you go. Let's see.
Wherever I may roam. I got I got two figures for you to pick from. So number one or number two, I suppose.
Odd numbers always. Number one.
Okay. This is, let me make my screen big. This is a Hellfire Goblin from Mythic Legions.
Oh, it's so sick.
I got this not that long ago. I'm going to see if I can open this because one of the coolest things about the Legions packaging is you can always put it in there. But as was one of my New Year's resolutions last year, we got to take these guys out as much as we can. And even if it's just for the sake, I can't probably do this expediently enough, but you guys will be able to see this a little bit more clear now.
Oh, so he's awesome.
I just love the goblins from the Mythic Legions line. And this one in particular just looks so nasty and vile that I just, I love the idea of these guys just mingling with my master's lines. And I can see this guy as a total disciple of Skeletor. Totally worth army building these guys as well. But look at the detail. And I can see these things, alongside some of my Jareth figures as well from Labyrinth. And so some sort of higher fantasy kind of stakes game there as well.
Yeah.
The detail is just like, oh my God, like all underneath the armor, it's all comes off. So if you don't want it like that, you can have it differently. Tons and tons of like armor and accessories and bows and like pieces that just add on. Clearly a lot as they're falling out right now, but just a wild, wild character. And he was, damned to be open. And now he's out here and he'll be soon on the shelf for a proper shelfie. So
that's cool. It's a line I've still yet to tap into, but I've got my hands on quite a few last couple of years through Action Figure Adventure and what we've done, and I've seen plenty, and they're just fantastic. They just do incredible work.
I'm very pick and choosy with the lines because I don't know the story so inside or out. So it's got to be a figure that just on its own appeals to me. But like, look at the weapon, like the weaponry alone, man. Like, look how awesome something like that is.
Yeah.
And how cool would that be during like playtime? And yes, I would
just
totally
an
play
old
in battle.
dirty blade. Yeah, there's nothing like
Yeah.
special about it. It's just an old weapon taped together.
And look at the
or,
paint on like the
leather
handle of it. Yeah, and then of course the leather. It's all aged well. It's just super cool figure, and I think it's only like $30 for a 6-inch scale figure. So that's pretty rad. But that'll do it for another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. Jay, any last parting thoughts before we wind this up? You loser, toy bet loser guy. I really can't believe you lost the bet.
I know. I'm forever known as J Rex. Yeah. So consequently, after I bought Captain Rex, the same comic book store. Wow, that Silver Surfer! You thought I opened my sealed Silver Surfer?
I don't know.
Of course, I got a second one.
Wow! Once the doors open.
Well, I'm like, I lose. I jumped in the deep end. I might as well not come up for air until I absolutely have to. So I bought a second Marvel Legends Silver Surfer so I could have one because I love this figure and character. So there he is. I want to say thank you to everyone in chat who continuously shows up week after week. It's really humbling, guys. Listen to us old dudes talk about toys, and I love the interaction with you guys. So yeah, thanks again. It's really cool. I really love doing this show live. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast, and it's cool that we're getting a continual common group of people coming back to keep it going week after week like we had last season. And even though episode 6 played on Jinx this week, and this of course is the 6th episode of our live stream, we're going to try to keep the live stream going as long as possible as well. So when the Jinx side ends at episode 10, hopefully we will keep going as often as we possibly can. I don't see any foreseeable issues right now, unless we get, some great production news. You never know.
Like last time, we do have to take breaks. You can't do it every week forever. I mean, unless you're Joe Rogan, you can do it every day. But of course, he gets the money, right? So
that's true. Ryan wants to know: am I going to keep going with the bet or start buying again?
Okay, this is what I think. I think we should up the stakes. So I lost. Okay, I'm gonna post on social media, say I'm a big loser and all that stuff. I think we should actually bet for something. I think there should be some stakes where it's gonna cost us not cash because that's crude, but like a figure under $20 or something like that. Or like I'll say like a typical Hasbro, a $30 figure. I think we should
figure, or are you just like taking the loss when it doesn't really count?
No, I think it should be we should come up with a bet for next show. We'll tell everyone what the new bet is, and let's just say it's like if you lose, you have to buy me a Hasbro figure. It's $30 or under, kind of thing.
Well, we should just say $30 towards a figure.
Yeah, but I don't want to give money. Like we're not giving
money.
No,
but like if I want an Origins figure, it's not $30, but that's what I want. Get me an Origins figure.
Think about this. So without getting too obscure or crazy, it'd be like, okay, well, you got to buy me, let's just say Origins Beastman. Or you got to find me Origins Beastman, like something that's a very specific one.
That seems like a lot of work. I'm not going to lose that bet. So that just seems like a lot of work to find something that you don't have in your collection or access to.
No. Just say like specifically, okay, I want the what if Captain Carter figure. So if I win the bet, you have to buy me the Captain Carter figure. Now, if you have to do that on eBay or if you have to go out and find it,
I don't like
that's
this.
your thing. But I mean, you don't want to.
I don't like this because you've already been buying figures, and in order for this to go forward, I still can't buy figures.
No, you can, because we're gonna have a week until next show, and within that week, go crazy. You do what you want. But we'll start the bet next Wednesday. We'll come up with the rules and terms. So you have a full week to go crazy.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sold on this. If you've got an idea and you're listening or you're catching this on the audio side, message us. I want to hear what you think the stakes should be and the terms of the bet. We're going to sort it out so that by next week, which would be kind of like our Christmas episode, the 22nd, I guess, we'll try to hammer it out, make it official. Toy Bet version 2.0. I like this as a little pointer. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, we're playing already. So that'll do for another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. Jay, where can people catch you?
YouTube. My name is Jay Bartlett. Search for that. That is all.
You can catch me obviously here on YouTube, on the Face Friend book page with the tweets, on the Instagrams. I'm around, where I hit that like button, subscribe to this, please. I'm actually really close to 1,000. Help me out, people. If not, I'll see you next week anyways. Cheers.